Okay, I see we're streaming live on YouTube now.
Okay, I'm just waiting on the side.
Okay, I see we're streaming live on YouTube now.
Okay, I'm just waiting on the side. Good evening to our viewers at home. Welcome to the Personal Finance Mastery Show. My name is Ashley Rasevutsa. I'm your host.
Okay, I see we're streaming live on YouTube now.
Okay, Personal Finance Mastery Show. My guest this evening is a financial coach, Mr. Naledi Moleya. Good evening to our viewers at home. We're talking about the Personal Finance Mastery during a pandemic. My name is Ashley Rasevutsa. I'm your host.
Okay, I see we're streaming live on YouTube.
Okay, just Finance Mastery Show. My guest this evening is a financial coach, Mr. Naledi Moleya. Good evening to our viewers at home. Welcome to the Personal Finance Mastery during a pandemic. My name is Ashley Rasevutsa. I'm your host.
I think we're having an echo.
Yes, we do. Let's restart.
Okay.
Mr. Naledi Moleya. I'm getting an echo. Maybe continue.
Is it fine now?
Yeah, I'm going to restart.
Okay.
Okay. You can start, right?
Yeah, I can. Was
Yeah,
it on
right.
my side? Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening to our viewers at home. Welcome to the Personal Finance Mastery Show. My name is Ashley Rasevutsa. I'm your host tonight. My guest this evening is a financial coach and trainer, Mr. Naledi Moleya, who will be talking to us about how to save during a pandemic. Good evening, Naledi, and welcome to the Personal Mastery Show.
Good evening, Mr. Ashley Rasevutsa, and good evening to the viewers or listeners. Thank you for inviting and having me on the Personal Finance Mastery Show.
So, people are excited and anxious to hear what you have to say today. You chose a very interesting topic, how to save during a pandemic. The question that I will ask is it possible to save during a pandemic?
Okay. Yeah, you asked a very important question. As difficult as it may sound, people might be skeptical and, how can I put it, not necessarily believe that one can really save during the pandemic. But I'll take you through some basics so that we have context and structure in our discussion today, so that, we give our viewers or listeners an overview on how they can actually save money or cut on costs during the pandemic. If there's anything that the pandemic has taught us, it's actually to budget and save money. So I'll take you through that sequence in an order of, I think, 4 items that I'll be touching on to answer that specific question. Yes, so it is possible to actually save during the pandemic.
Thanks, Naledi. The listeners and the viewers are waiting at home.
Yeah, so maybe to start off with, just to give context, it will be a futile exercise to talk about saving during the pandemic without talking about an overstated or over talked about issue or item which we call a budget. So We need to actually take stock. There are 4 items that we need to look at if we were to talk about saving during a pandemic. I think the viewers out there need to really learn that we need to take stock. I think that's one of the first things that we'll really talk about. Taking stock, I mean, what do I mean by that? I mean, we need to create a clear picture of our finances, what goes in, what comes out. So that's where we need to start. So we need to do what we call a financial health check. And we need to manage it in the order of with the money coming in and money going out. So we need to actually sit down, have a piece of paper. As cliche as it sounds, we need to understand how much money is coming in, if there is any money coming in. Once we do that exercise and we have tallied our monies that are coming in, we need to sit down with that amount and we need to split it into 3. So our focus today would actually be on the savings part of the 3 splits. So you'll have your money coming in. Once it's in, you need to split it into 3 portions. Your first portion would be your must-haves or your necessities, your fixed expenses, what you need to really focus your money on, or what you need, or I think in simpler terms, what would sustain you and keep you going. So those are monies that, an example like food, for example, is a basic need. So your money will go out automatically, or you have to make money for groceries and loans and other commitments that you might have. So you'll have your second portion, which we look at, which would be your wants. So your wants would be things that, I think people can live without. Wants are things that people can cut costs on. Wants can be, a perfect example might be your gym membership, for example. It might be a DSTV subscription and so on and so forth. So that's the second part. We have the last part, which we're going to focus on, Mr. Rasabotsa. And, I'm really excited about this because that's where we're going to kickstart, our 12 show presentation, which, I'm hoping that the viewers will subscribe and like and eventually, make us reach milestone numbers. So the third part would be the savings part, where I want us to look at. So the savings part, you're looking at whatever is left after, you've paid monies for your needs. You've paid monies or allocated monies for your wants and so on. So you'll have your third portion, which would be your savings, which would talk to where we are at this current stage. Because if you're looking at the pandemic, people that are really navigating and surviving through the pandemic are people that actually saved money. Believe it or not, as cliche as it sounds, it's people that have done their homework. Remember, we're having this discussion amidst a pandemic. A pandemic is an unforeseen circumstance or unforeseen event. It's something that we could not have foreseen. But in financial terms, we need to plan for that. So when you plan for that and your money is coming in and you're allocating all the monies where they need to be, you'll have your portion where you are saving. Financial experts tell us that we need to save at least 6 months of our salary dedicated towards expenses should an unforeseen event an unforeseen event happen. In a case of a pandemic, if the basics were done right, which I will deep dive into, the basics of having control of our monies, knowing what is going in and what is going out, I think we would be actually in a better space to understand and navigate a little easier. Remember, when we talk about money, this presentation is purely simple and it covers your entry level, middle market, and your retail affluent. The principle is the same. So whether you're at a lower level, there should be some monies coming in at some stage. It might be through donations. I know people are unemployed, others have lost their jobs, salaries have been cut, but it doesn't stop us from having a discipline of understanding or taking stock as the first point that we're discussing. Taking stock of what is it that is coming in, what is it that is coming out. And once that exercise is done, we're going to talk around what we call, or that exercise will lead us into understanding our health check, our financial health check. Remember, if you go see a doctor and you are sick, they will do a diagnostic and understand what is it that you are sick, what is it that you have. Then they give you the right medication for that particular sickness. In financial terms, when we talk about a financial health check, I'll just give you numbers, or give our viewers numbers so that we understand these things. So in a financial world, we are taught to understand that a healthy financial check should be about 35 to about, say, 45%. I'll explain what that is. So once we understand what monies are coming in and once monies are going out, how we get to the percentage or a healthier financial health check, we need to take in all our expenses, everything that is a debt or expenses. We take them, we put them into one pool. We divide those by earnings or our disposable income, or what we receive as donations, and. So once you take, for example, to simplify it, all my expenses are 2,000 and my salary is 3,000, right? So what you then do is you divide the two. You'll take the 2,000 and then you divide it by 3,000. So it will give us 66 or 0.66. You times that by 100. I'll simplify it. So it gives us 66%, basically, in essence. So once you get that number, you have a dipstick. It's like a dipstick. You have an understanding of where your financial health is. Remember what I said, 35 to 45 becomes a healthier a dipstick. So once you hit that 66% mark, it means there's some homework that our viewers need to do. Individually, it means that you need to cut and start saving, which brings us to the topic at hand. So that's where we need to start. Our viewers need to devise a budget, make it look interesting like we're doing now. It doesn't have to be old school cliche. Take whatever amounts or debts or commitments that you have, try the exercise, divide it by whatever you are receiving, whether it's through a donation, through a salary, or whichever way. Play around with that formula, times it by 100. Once you get a 60%, a 70%, 80, or whatever number you get, just use a yardstick of 35 to 45% as a healthier ratio that you need to work towards, so that you become in a space where you are financially stable and you would have taken stock, as I've indicated. So that is the first point that that our viewers need to do on a journey to really saving and navigating their way through the pandemic. The second issue that I need to talk to, it's decreasing spending, Mr. Rasubotsa. So once we've done our exercise of taking stock, that exercise will help us understand, or what we then need to do is to use two words, needs and wants. We need to do a deep dive into the budget itself, the 66%. We need to separate what a need is and what a want is. Remember, we spoke about the first item being, our fixed expenses or needs, the things that we need. Second item being our wants, things that we can really live without. In financial terms, we say that, you pay for your needs and you save for your wants. So decreasing spending would then mean that we are in a pandemic. We are choiceless. Jobs are cut, 40% unemployment rate, salaries are cut. There's a whole lot of things that are going wrong. And if there's anything that the pandemic has taught us, is to budget. Believe you me, a lot of people would want to budget, but they don't understand or understand the know-hows of why we need to budget. Hence, we say we can save money during the pandemic because we have no choice now. So we have to decrease our spending. Decreasing our spending means that we need to prioritize things like our basic needs, we can only do so much on those basic needs. For example, a loan commitment, groceries that you pay on a monthly basis, your rent, and so on and so forth. Those are things that become basic to a point where they become automatic. So whatever money comes in, basically it goes to those basic needs. We come to a second item, and what we are saying is that the pandemic has forced us, or life has forced us to live a particular or a certain way of life. And when the pandemic comes, it came at a point where South Africans, I mean, we are known not to have a savings culture. I mean, if you look at our peers, SADC countries and sub-Saharan countries and so on, those countries generally encourage their civilians to actually, they don't extend credit as easy as they extend it in SA. So one way or the other, we're in a space where we don't really have a savings culture, as the numbers would show us. Once you don't have a savings culture, we have a hand-to-mouth scenario where if an unforeseen event happens, like a pandemic, we feel lost. And what the message today is that we don't need to feel lost. We need to plan. If we plan properly, take stock, we decrease spending, separate your needs and your wants, cut on things that are not necessary. Here's a first thing that we can look at in terms of saving during a pandemic. You can freeze your gym membership, for example, Mr. Rasabotsa. My wife hasn't been to gym for quite a while. She subscribed to a certain gym company. And, when the pandemic hit, she hadn't gone to gym for 2 or 3 months or so. But even if after that, what happened was that we had to sit down and look at our numbers. And one of the things that we cut on was the gym membership. We put it on suspend. They suspended the gym membership. Other things that, the viewers need to consider, as difficult as it sounds, you have something like a DSTV subscription, for example, or your normal subscriptions that you would have via music subscriptions, Netflix, so on and so forth. In times where we are in a pandemic and our monies are compromised, we actually need to look at ways that might be painful, like suspending the DSTV subscription, for example. It can be suspended for 3 to 6 months, depending on what individual people's individual needs are. For example, if I'm paying 400 on a DSTV subscription, I suspend it for 6 months. 4 and 6, about 2,400. So what we then need to do is that if you are planning and taking stock of your money, you dedicate that money where it needs to go. So decreasing spending, meaning that we need to separate our needs, we need to separate our wants, we need to cut on costs to a point where even our normal groceries that are bought, we need to actually buy things that will get us going. Just buy the basic things, hoping that things will improve with time in terms of being employed. But the primary, most critical and important thing is devising a plan, regardless of being an entry-level person, being a farmer. You might be working at a bank, at a Pick n Pay, at a Woolies, and so on, all the way to your retail affluent, being a doctor or being a professional of some sense. We are not excluded from this crisis. Everyone is facing it, and the principle is the same. So we need to decrease spending. It is possible if we plan properly and we sit down with a pen and paper and separate our needs and our wants, and look at possibly suspending some of the services that we might be having, so that at the end of the month you can have extra money that you can dedicate towards something that, or you can dedicate to a portion that will alleviate the pressure of feeling like you don't have money. And we also need to defer our spending. So I'll speak about deferring our spending. the pandemic has hit everyone so hard. If we don't plan now, we're going to get to a point where December comes, we're going to be in a crisis. As we know, the culture, or our culture as South Africans, January starts, goals are made up to a certain point, everything dies. December comes, we overspending. Jan, Feb, March, February comes, schools opens. As parents, we don't have enough money to take the kids to school. And the pandemic has actually, it has even made things worse. Believe you me, going into next year, if we don't plan now in terms of deferring some of our spendings and a decrease in costs, if we don't plan now, the pandemic has made things already a bit difficult, not even a bit, a whole exponentially difficult. So when February comes, already we're 6 months behind, if not like 12 months behind. So we've been hit very hard. So what we then need to do is, if we start with a budget, we take stock, we decrease spending, we devise a plan, meaning that in July, we're doing our budget right now. This is July. In August, we're paying off, or we pay off things that, remember, once you devise a plan, you will learn of extra monies, or if you don't have money in terms of what you're receiving as donations or a salary, you would learn in the month of August. You start in July, you come to August, you pay off what needs to be paid off. You would have learned that by devising a plan, accounting every cent and rent to where it needs to be. And then you come to September, where you start doing or planning for your festive planning. Believe you me, the only way we can navigate through this pandemic is planning, Mr. Rasabotsa. So once you start planning for a festive, what that tells you, you are saving. You cannot plan for a festive if you're not saving money. So you put money aside. Once you start putting money aside, you also need to learn that you need to be responsible. This is the month of August. September, your money is aside. Already, you're on a journey of mastering the art of saving money. So you're becoming responsible in October. In November, for example, you have a head start, basically. November comes, you're repeating the cycle and you have a head start. December comes, remember, you would have started in July, which is now. January comes, February comes, you can alleviate the pressure. Believe you me, without planning, we become like headless chicken. So I'll just pause there if there's anything that you need to ask, so that we don't go too fast. Maybe recap for our viewers as well, so that we're on the same page with everyone.
Mr. Malia, unfortunately, that's all what we have time for this evening. Mm-hmm. We will connect again with our viewers next week. And thank you for joining the show, and have a great evening.
No, you're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Rasabotsa. I'm looking forward to see you on the next show. Thank you.